Get down. I shouted as I threw myself over her. I didn't know that single second would put me face to face with the vice president of the Hells Angels. The first sound he heard was the scream. It cut through the night like glass shattering, sharp, panicked, real. Ethan didn't think. He didn't calculate distance or danger or odds. His body reacted before his brain could catch up. He turned toward the sound, heart already racing, shoes slapping against the cracked pavement as he sprinted down the narrow alley. The city was half asleep. Neon lights flickered above a closed liquor store. Somewhere, a siren wailed and then faded. The alley smelled of oil and old rain. At the far end, under a dying street lamp, he saw her. She was backed against a brick wall, hands shaking, eyes wide with terror. 3 men stood in front of her. Leather jackets, heavy boots. One of them laughed, low and ugly, like he owned the night. "Please," she said, her voice breaking. "I don't have anything." Ethan didn't stop running. "Hey!" he shouted. "Get away from her." All 3 men turned. For half a second, the world froze. Ethan saw their faces clearly now. Hard eyes, scarred knuckles, the kind of calm that came from knowing no one usually challenged them. One of them smirked. "Look at this," he said. "We got a hero." Ethan's heart hammered, but he kept moving, stepping between the girl and the men. He didn't know what he planned to do next. He just knew he couldn't leave her there. "Back off," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. The men laughed. Then it happened. A sharp metallic click. Ethan didn't see the gun at first, just the sudden change in the air, the way the girl gasped, the way one man's smile vanished. Training he didn't even know he had kicked in. "Get down," Ethan shouted. He threw himself forward, wrapping his arms around her, twisting his body so his back faced the threat. They hit the ground hard. Her breath knocked out of her. His shoulder slammed into concrete. A gunshot exploded through the alley. Time slowed. Sound stretched. Ethan felt heat rip past him, close enough that it felt like fire against his skin. Somewhere above them, brick chipped and dust rained down. For a second, no one moved. Then footsteps. The men ran. Ethan stayed still, his body tense, waiting for another shot. None came. Only silence, and the girl's rapid breathing beneath him. "It's okay," he said quietly, lifting his head. "They're gone." She stared at him like she couldn't quite believe he was real. "You," she swallowed. "You didn't even hesitate." Ethan helped her sit up. His hands were shaking now that the danger had passed. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head slowly. "No. I think I'm okay." The streetlight flickered again, illuminating her face properly for the first time. She was younger than he'd thought. Mid-20s, maybe. Dark hair pulled into a messy ponytail, eyes sharp even through the shock. There was something about her, confidence beneath the fear, like she wasn't used to being powerless. "I'm Ethan," he said. "Lena," she replied. They stood there for a moment, both breathing too fast, both listening to the city wake back up around them. "You should call the police," Ethan said. Lena hesitated. Just for a fraction of a second, but he noticed. "Yeah," she said. "Maybe." She glanced down the alley the men had disappeared into, then back at him. "Thank you. You didn't have to do that." He shrugged, trying to play it off. "Someone had to." She studied him in a way that made him uncomfortable. Like she was memorizing him. "You live around here?" she asked. "Not far," he said. "I was heading home." "Me too," she replied. "Well, kind of." Another pause. This one heavier. "Listen," she said finally. "I don't usually ask strangers for help, but could you walk me a bit? Just until I get to my car." "Of course," Ethan said instantly. They walked side by side, the tension slowly easing. The city felt different now, brighter, louder, like everything had been turned up a notch. "You always jump in front of guns?" Lena asked, a hint of a smile appearing. Ethan laughed nervously. "First time, actually." "That's good," she said. "Wouldn't want it to become a habit." They reached a black SUV parked under a streetlight. It looked expensive. Too expensive for the neighborhood. Lena stopped. "This is me," she said. Ethan nodded. "You sure you're okay?" She smiled fully now. "I will be." She opened the door, then paused. "Can I get your number?" He blinked. "Yeah, sure." They exchanged numbers. Her phone case was plain, but the screen lit up with missed calls. A lot of them. All from the same contact. "Dad." She noticed him looking and quickly locked the screen. "Overprotective," Ethan joked. She gave a small, unreadable smile. "Something like that." The SUV engine roared to life. Before closing the door, she leaned out slightly. "Ethan," she said, "tonight could have gone very differently. I won't forget what you did." "Me neither," he replied. She drove off, taillights disappearing into the dark. Ethan stood there longer than he meant to, replaying the moment over and over, the gunshot, the weight of her against him, the look in her eyes. He had no idea that single decision would change his life. He didn't know who her father really was. He didn't know that the men in the alley weren't random. And he definitely didn't know that by throwing himself over Lena, he had just stepped into a world ruled by motorcycles, blood oaths, and a name that made grown men lower their voices. The Hells Angels. Ethan didn't sleep that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the flash of metal, heard the crack of the gunshot, felt the weight of Lena's body as he threw himself over her. His shoulder still ached where it had slammed into the ground, but it was nothing compared to the tight knot in his chest. By morning, he'd convinced himself it was over. A bad moment. Right place, wrong time. He'd done the right thing, and now life would go back to normal. That illusion lasted exactly 3 hours. His phone buzzed while he was at work, stacking boxes in the warehouse. Unknown number. He almost ignored it. Almost. "Hello," he said. "Ethan," a calm female voice replied. "It's Lena." Relief washed through him before he could stop it. "Hey, you okay?" "I am," she said. "Thanks to you." There was a pause. Not awkward, heavy. "Can we meet?" she asked. "Today. Somewhere public." "Yeah," he said immediately. "Of course." They agreed on a small cafe near the river. When Ethan arrived, she was already there, sitting near the window. Daylight made her look different, less fragile, more controlled. She wore jeans, boots, and a black jacket that looked worn but expensive. "You look like you didn't sleep," she said as he sat down. "Guess I'm not the only one," he replied. She smiled briefly, then grew serious. "Ethan, there's something I need to tell you." He felt it then, that same pressure he'd felt in the alley before the gun came out. "My dad knows about last night," she continued. "That's not surprising," he said. "You had a bunch of missed calls." She nodded. "What you don't know is who my dad is." Before she could continue, the cafe door opened. Conversation died instantly. 3 men walked in. Leather cuts. Heavy chains. Tattoos creeping up their necks and disappearing under collars. The room seemed to shrink around them. No one said a word, but everyone felt it, the shift, the warning. Lena's jaw tightened. "Too late," she muttered. The men didn't look around. They walked straight toward their table. "Lena," the tallest one said. His voice was respectful, but not gentle. "Your father wants you home." She crossed her arms. "I'm talking." The man's eyes flicked to Ethan for the first time. Cold. Assessing. Dangerous. "And you are?" he asked. Ethan stood slowly. Every instinct told him not to, but something in the man's tone demanded it. "Ethan," he said, "I'm the one who helped her." The man studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded once. Good. Good wasn't the word Ethan expected. They left the cafe minutes later. Not in handcuffs. Not dragged. Just escorted. The black SUV waited outside, engine running. The drive was silent. They didn't go to a house. They went to a compound. High fences. Security cameras. Motorcycles lined up like soldiers, Harleys, all of them, shining under the sun. Men stood around casually, but every movement was watchful. Ethan's mouth went dry. "This is where I get murdered, right?" he whispered to Lena. She looked at him. If my dad wanted you dead, you wouldn't be here. That didn't help. They were led inside a large building that smelled of oil, leather, and smoke. At the far end, a man sat at a heavy wooden table. He didn't stand when they entered. He didn't need to. Silver hair pulled back, beard trimmed short, eyes sharp enough to cut glass. Tattoos crawled up his arms like living things. A Hells Angels patch lay folded on the table beside him. Vice President. Ethan knew the name. Everyone did. Lena stopped walking. Dad, she said quietly. The man's gaze stayed on Ethan. So, he said calmly. You're the kid who threw himself over my daughter. Ethan swallowed. Yes, sir. The man leaned back slightly. Why? Ethan didn't hesitate. Because someone was pointing a gun at her. A long silence followed. Then the man stood. He walked slowly toward Ethan, boots heavy against concrete. He stopped inches away. You know who those men were? He asked. No, Ethan said honestly. They work for people who think hurting my family is a way to send messages, the man said. People who disappear when I decide they do. Ethan's pulse roared in his ears. And you, the man continued, stood in front of that message. He turned his head slightly. Lena, wait outside. She hesitated. Dad, outside. She left, shooting Ethan a look that said more than words ever could. The door closed. The man turned back to Ethan. You're either very brave, he said, or very stupid. Probably both, Ethan admitted. The man laughed once. A short, sharp sound. I like honest men. He walked back to the table. Here's the truth, Ethan. From the moment you did what you did, you became involved. There's no stepping back. Ethan clenched his fists. I didn't ask for this. No, the man agreed. But my daughter didn't ask to be born into this either. He leaned forward. Now I have a problem. People know someone protected her. People want to know who you are. What does that mean for me? Ethan asked. It means, the man said calmly, you're either under my protection, or you're on your own. And if I choose to walk away? Ethan asked. The man's eyes hardened. You won't make it a week. Silence pressed down like a weight. Ethan thought of his quiet life. His small apartment. His job. His plans. Then he thought of Lena's scream. Her shaking hands. The way she'd looked at him like he was something solid in a collapsing world. I don't want anything, Ethan said slowly. I just don't want her hurt. The man studied him for a long time. Finally, he nodded. Then you stay, he said. You learn the rules. You don't run. The door opened again. Lena stepped inside. Her father looked at her. He's not leaving. Her eyes widened. What? He saved your life, her father said. Now he's part of it. Lena looked at Ethan. Fear, relief, and something deeper collided in her expression. Ethan realized then, throwing himself over her hadn't just saved her life. It had bound his to hers. And the real danger was only beginning. Ethan learned quickly that protection came with a price. The first rule was silence. No social media. No unnecessary calls. No wandering alone. A man was assigned to him, quiet, watchful, always nearby. Ethan wasn't a prisoner, but he wasn't free either. Every gate opened only after someone else nodded. Lena tried to make it easier. She showed him where to eat, where to sit, which meant to avoid eye contact with and which ones expected it. She laughed like everything was normal, but Ethan saw the tension in her shoulders, the way she listened even when she pretended not to. This isn't what I wanted for you, she said one night as they stood near the rows of motorcycles. I chose this, Ethan replied. She looked at him. You chose me. That scared him more than anything else. 2 days later, the warning came. A body was found near the docks. One of the men from the alley. Shot twice. Left where everyone could see him. The message was clear. The problem wasn't finished. That night, Lena's father called Ethan into the office again. You ever fired a gun? He asked. No, Ethan answered. Tonight you learn, the man said calmly. Because they're coming. They came after midnight. Not loud. Not careless. A black van cut the power. Shots cracked through the dark. Alarms screamed. Chaos exploded in seconds. Ethan was pushed behind cover, heart slamming against his ribs. He smelled gunpowder, heard men shouting commands, boots pounding concrete. This wasn't a movie. There was no music. Just noise and fear and decisions made too fast. Someone went down near the gate. Move. A voice yelled. Ethan ran. He didn't know where he was going until he saw Lena. She was crouched behind a truck, eyes wide but steady, holding a phone in one hand. Relief hit him like a punch. Get back, she shouted. A man appeared behind her, gun raised. Ethan didn't think. He tackled him. They hit the ground hard. The gun skidded away. The man was bigger, stronger, trained, but Ethan had one thing he didn't. Nothing to lose. The struggle was brutal. Elbows, fists, breath ripped from lungs. Ethan felt pain flare across his ribs, his jaw. Then hands grabbed the attacker and dragged him away. Silence followed. Slowly. Painfully. The attack ended as fast as it had begun. Sirens wailed in the distance, not police. Not here. Just noise. Ethan sat on the ground, shaking, blood on his hands that wasn't all his. Lena knelt in front of him. Are you hurt? He shook his head. I'm okay, she whispered, then wrapped her arms around him. For the first time, she didn't try to be strong. Her father watched them from across the yard. Later, as dawn broke, he stood beside Ethan. You didn't run, he said. Ethan stared at the horizon. I won't. The man nodded slowly. Then listened carefully. He turned to face him. This life doesn't let people stay innocent. I won't pretend otherwise. But you have something most of my men lost a long time ago. What's that? Ethan asked. You still choose, he said. And tonight, you chose to protect. He extended his hand. Not as a biker, he continued. Not as a soldier. But as family. Ethan shook it. The weeks that followed were quieter. Not safe, but quieter. The threat faded, pushed back into the shadows where it belonged. Ethan didn't become what he feared. He didn't lose himself. He learned when to stand, when to step back, when silence mattered more than strength. And Lena chose him, not because he was untouchable, not because he was powerful, but because, when fear arrived, he moved toward it instead of away. One evening, months later, they stood by the river near that same cafe. You ever regret that night? She asked softly. Ethan looked at her. Every scar tells me I shouldn't. She smiled. And I'd do it again, he said. She leaned into him, the city lights reflecting off the water. Some stories didn't start with love. Some started with danger. And some people didn't save the girl and walk away. Some stayed, even when they learned who her father really was.